Hey everybody, it's Joe from greenlightsound.com, and today we're going to take a look at a really rare piece of gear, or a plugin based on a really rare piece of gear, and that is the EQ built by the Motown engineers in the 1960s, and this is the Motone EQ from NoiseAsh. Motown, of course, being an absolutely classic American record label / studio with Stevie Wonder, Jackson 5, Marvin Gaye, Diana Ross, etc. Tons of great R&B artists coming out of there. And again, this EQ is based upon a custom unit built for that studio. You have two different versions from NoiseAsh. You've got the actual Motone EQ right here, the normal version of it, what's most similar to what is the actual hardware. And then you've got the Pro version over here. You can buy the Pro bundle, which includes a few other features. So let's dive right into what those features are right now. In the standard version, we've got 7 different bands here with fixed frequencies where you can boost or cut up to 8 dB. We can choose whether to have the knob stepped like the real original version, where it clicks on single dB increments, or you can go to continuous mode and sweep to whatever amount you want. You've got the nice addition of high pass and low pass filtering as well, plus a gain control at the end. So really simple to use EQ. The Pro version is really basically the same setup with a few other features added to it. First of all, we have the ability to process the left and right channels separately, or if we go into mid-side mode, the mid and side channels separately. We can link our controls so they're the exact same on both sides, or we can turn it off so we can control each side independently. Again, we can choose between continuous or stepped knob control. We have NoiseAsh's nuanced deviation system, so in a stereo or mid-side configuration, the two different channels have slightly different curves to them depending on what channel you pick, kind of like how there'd be slight variation in the tolerances of actual hardware. And one other feature in the Pro version is we can take this frequency knob and change the actual frequencies here. We can have them be normal or half their value. I'll show you what that looks like in PluginDoctor now. So you can see if I boost 800 Hertz, for example, and I move this frequency selector, I can sweep it to half the frequency it was down to 400 Hertz, or back up to 800 or anything in between that we want here. So that's really flexible way of changing the values if you don't like the fixed values that you have here. It would be kind of nice if these numeric readouts below actually adjusted with this knob so you weren't kind of guessing, but the flexibility is nice. Now, when we talk about proportional Q in EQ, this is what we mean. If I take that 800 band and I push it up slightly, you can see that that Q, that curve is really wide. And the farther I go, the tighter that bandwidth gets. Same thing with the cuts. Small amounts are really wide, larger amounts get tighter. And that's what that proportional Q is. The Q changes depending on how much you're boosting or cutting, which is what you would typically want. If you're doing really small amounts, you want that wide Q. And if you're trying to really notch things out, you want it to be a little bit tighter. And that, of course, goes for all the bands that are included in this EQ. So let's hear this thing in action. Now, I'm not going to actually use the Pro version first because in this case, on a drum bus, I don't need all those features. I'm not going to process the left and right or the mid and side channel separately. So I want to go right into the regular controls here. Let's hear what it sounds like with no EQ on it first. So you get the idea. Let's engage the plugin and see what we can get out of this. So really simple to use, and you really have a tough time overdoing it, which is really nice to have that sort of forgiving nature of the plugin. Let's bypass it on and off as it plays. Start with it on first. So really subtle EQ, but that's how I would use it on a bus. We can, of course, go extreme if we want to. And it still doesn't sound really overdone. I'll bypass it on and off again. I should gain match that a little bit. And it opens up that top end nicely, even max crank, which is really nice to not be able to get it sounding harsh, even when you're pushing it that hard. So if we take a look at the Pro mode in action now, I'm actually going to flip it into mid-side mode, try to open up the side signal and adjust the mids a bit. Let's see how that works. I'll bypass it on and off as it plays. And of course, by adjusting the gain of the frequencies and the side signal versus the mid, we can actually add some impression of width to the signal, which is really nice. So it's nice to have that built-in feature. Of course, we could do left and right side separately as well if we wanted to do it that way. So there it is, NoiseAsh's Motone EQ, an EQ that's really hard to mess up and really easy to use. Great for buses, great for individual sources too, but I think it really shines on buses and maybe stereo mixes as well. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already, so we can keep you in the loop as to what's coming up next, and I'll see you in the next one.